Hello, and thank you for tuning in to a very special episode of the Baka Project. So as you can see, I am not at home. I am in Jerusalem, or Yerushalayim. I'm here in Israel. Now, in Jerusalem, why is it a special episode? I've been in Israel for a few weeks now. This episode is special because it is Shabbat, or it's about to be Shabbat. The sun's still up, as you can probably see. But Shabbat is the weekly festival, or the weekly celebration, or the kind of the weekly tradition where everything stops. And in America, you don't really see it, you're not as affected by it. There's plenty of Jewish people in America, but not everything shuts down. Out here, that is the case. Everything shuts down. Also, it's the last Friday of Ramadan, which is a Muslim holiday. And it's one of their high holidays. It's for a month long. This is the last Friday of Ramadan. So you have Arabs, you have Jews in the same city, both a very important holiday, and the entire city is shut down for these holidays. So it's very, very interesting, the dynamic of what we have here going on. Now, just a few things to kind of mention. Here in the hotel, they have a Shabbat elevator, which, I don't want to go into the whole reason why they have to do this, but basically it stops at every floor, opens up the door, you get in or you don't get in, and it goes to the next floor, and it keeps doing that for 24 hours until the next day when Shabbat is over. And so, just little things that they do. A lot of times they won't make food because they can't work. So they come to a hotel to eat, or they go to a restaurant to eat. But again, now you've come into some complications because it's the last Friday of Ramadan. So there's a whole lot of mess going on. And one of the funny things that you kind of start to see is there are some people that hold to it extremely, and some people that find loopholes. And so they'll end up figuring out a way to work on one of these days. Now, as a Christian, these kind of things, especially in America, these kind of things don't really seem like they don't make any sense, because we don't have things like that where we shut everything down except for major national holidays. So it's kind of a strange thing, because it's really just a Friday, but again, it's Shabbat and it's the last Friday of Ramadan. So there's a whole mess of things going on here in Israel that we would never really experience in America, because the population size of Jews and Arabs in our states, depending on which state you live in, are pretty low, and so they don't really affect us like they would affect you here. Now, I wanted to discuss what Shabbat is. So Shabbat is the Sabbath day. It's the seventh day of creation. So it's the day of rest because God rested. And God calls us to keep the Shabbat holy, keep the Sabbath holy. And so you kind of have to think about that. How can you keep a day holy? Now, there's a lot of rules and laws on it, but they're very vague. And so you start to look at things like, you can't light a flame, so you can't use a light. Or if you're going to use a light, you have to keep it on the entire day. So there's so many different things that go into this. But what does it mean to keep it holy? And a lot of times that will go into things like, you don't do any work. So you were praising God, you were honoring God in this day. You were taking time to sit in synagogue and hear the rabbis speak about God and understanding Him better. So that's one big thing. But the thing I want to address is, how do we keep a day holy? Now, I think it's more profound than just a day. I think he's talking about a person, and I want to explain what I mean. So if you'd like to, you're more than welcome to. I don't have my Bible with me, but I do have it on my phone, and I'm going to read it right now. We're going to go into Matthew chapter 11. Matthew chapter 11, verse 25. I was talking with someone that was Jewish, and they said, I don't believe Christians believe in God because they don't follow the 10 commandments. And I challenged him. I said, which of the 10 commandments do Christians not follow? And he, out of all of them, I said, a good Christian. Obviously there are some that lie, some that steal, maybe some that kill, maybe some that commit adultery, that they fail in their place. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying someone that's truly devout or devoted to being a Christian, devoted to giving their life and serving the Lord. Name one that they don't keep. And he said Sabbath, or he said Shabbat. And I said, this was kind of my answer, and I'll go right into it. So Matthew 11, verse 25, it said, "At that time Jesus said, I praise you, Father, Lord in heaven and earth, that you have hidden these things from the wise and the intelligent and have revealed them to infants. Yes, Father, for this way was well-pleasing in your sight. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son will reveal to him. Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Now the part I want to emphasize, Jesus, his call is for everyone to come to him. That's the altar call. That's the gospel. Come to Jesus. Put your faith in Jesus. Put your faith in Yeshua. He will be your Savior. But what does it mean, who are weary and heavy laden? Who are people that are weary and heavy laden? Is he only talking to people that do construction work, right? Is he only talking to people that have hard jobs? I don't think so. Because Jesus' big problem was the religious, the overly religious. And when you're in a place like Israel, religious people is something you see a lot more than you see in the States. People here are extremely religious. You go to the Arab quarter, and they're all Muslim, or at least a huge majority of them. And you go to the Jewish quarter in Jerusalem, and they're all Jewish. They're all very Jewish. Everyone's wearing a kippah. A lot of people are wearing even more attire that's religious. And so you start to see religion is such a prevalent thing. But what is religion? If I were to sum it up in one sentence, and I think the best way, and I've had this understanding a lot more being here, religion is an outward appearance of what is supposed to be changed inwardly. So it's basically having the outward change without having the inward change. It's all superficial. It's all skin deep. It's not broken into your heart, and that's why Jesus says, I want your heart. Now, again, going back to the verse, what does it mean, all of those who are burdened and heavy laden? Now, back in the day of Jesus, religion, as it is today, is a very oppressive thing. And a lot of times people say, oh, well, religion's just oppressive. I don't want that in my life. Mostly because they don't want morals in their life. That's usually why people say that. But religion, and what he's referring to, is having to do certain practices, having to go through a bunch of hoops and all these different things just so you can be good enough to maybe have your prayers answered to God. Or maybe be good enough to where you can sit in synagogue, or maybe be good enough for your own salvation. You're working towards your salvation, but you feel like you're never living up. And I have a truth to tell you, you're not. You're not living up. No one is. We all fail every single day. And that's the point of Jesus, because he says, I will offer you forgiveness. You're never going to be good enough. When the Father has judgment against you, I'm going to stand by your side, and I am going to say, nope, this one's mine. He's clean. And so when he's saying all of those who are burdened and heavy laden, he's saying with religion. They're burdened with religion. They're burdened with this oppressive yoke that is completely just ruining their life because they can't ever get good enough, and they spend their entire life trying to. And so he's saying, come to me, let down your burdens. You don't have to wear certain clothes made in a certain place by a certain person. You don't have to, wear a kippah. You don't have to go to church every afternoon and pray a certain prayer. In fact, I don't want that. I don't want your prayer of many words. I want your heart. The person that can only say 100 words in their vocabulary, their prayers are just as heard as someone that has 10,000 words or can speak in multiple languages. That doesn't impress God. God's not a respecter of man. God wants your heart. He wants you to be genuine with him. And so that's the point of Jesus and his ministry and his call to your life, to my life, is to say, I want your heart. Give your heart to me. Be genuine. Worship me in truth and in love and in devotion with your life. I'll do the work. Not me, but Jesus. Jesus will do the work. He wants to work on you. Religion tells you to clean up the outside and eventually your inside will be clean enough. Jesus says, let me clean your inside and your outside will start to show it. It's like Jesus. He said, the abundance of man's heart, the mouth speaks. He doesn't say change the way you speak. He says change your heart and everything else will fall in place. He was referring to the Pharisees, and he told them that their throats were empty tombs. Now, in those days, they had tombs with these big stones they would roll in front of them. I've seen a few of them, actually. I have a couple videos. I'll definitely post them up. But when you had the tomb and you closed it, there was two reasons for it. One, you didn't want to see death. And two, you didn't want to smell death. And so when he's telling the Pharisees that their throats are open tombs, he's saying that the more you speak, the more dead people realize you are spiritually. And the more you speak, the more it smells like spiritual death. And so he's kind of alluding and making an analogy towards religion only brings you death. It doesn't bring you life. Only Jesus Christ and him crucified brings you life. Everything else is rubbish. Everything else is trash. Jesus does the work, but you have to put your faith in him. You have to put your trust in him. You have to believe him as the Son of God. Now, some people will say, well, how do you know that Jesus existed? Well, I promise you this one thing. There is no more provable fact in all of history than Jesus of Nazareth walking through these very streets. Nothing else is more provable. There's eyewitness accounts. There's multiple accounts from multiple different books. Hundreds of books, hundreds of documents. There's so many things that prove that Jesus of Nazareth walked this earth and that he died on a cross. A cross. It's very important that you understand that. Under Roman occupation, around 32 AD. So that part's really easy to prove. There's so much out there that can prove it. Now the part where the faith comes in a little bit is that he resurrected from the dead. Now there are countless accounts, about 10,000 or so eyewitness accounts for Jesus resurrecting, bodily resurrecting, people seeing him, people touching him, people talking to him. There's plenty of accounts. The end of each gospel talks about this. I think it was Mark. He took the amount of people that actually saw him and witnessed him. There's many accounts there. But again, these are things that's where faith comes in. Now, I guess the easy part is this. And it's hard in a sense, but it's simple in its idea. There's a lot of different religions and all different paths out there that you can take as a person. And every religion, every path, even atheism or agnosticism or wokeism, they all have their certain level of works that you have to do to prove yourself worthy to that cause. Even wokeism is probably the most burdensome because you're constantly having to do more. You're constantly having to change. Everything offers you a path that you have to work towards, and if you work hard enough and do enough, say enough, that you'll earn your way to a better place than what you're in now. If it's on this earth or beyond this earth, you will earn it. Christianity does not promise that. It's the one religion in the world that does not promise that you can earn your way to a better place. In fact, it tells you that if you think any part of your heart that you earn it, it's all been nullified. It says it's by faith through grace by faith, and not by works, lest anyone should boast. If it's by works, then grace is no longer grace. It's the one religion that offers you grace. And so, if you're contemplating whether or not that you want to believe in Jesus, or which direction may be right, maybe you're seeking, maybe you're wondering which path is right for my life, which path is going to bring me to salvation or bring me to a better place than where I'm in now, or get me away from a lifestyle that I'm in. There may be something there that you're saying, something's missing in my life. I'm going to tell you it's God. And you may say, well, I serve God. Maybe you're Jewish. And you say, well, I serve the God of the Bible. And my argument to that is that in Proverbs 30, written by the wise Solomon, says, if you don't know the Son, you don't know the Father. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, please read Proverbs 30, 1 through 6. It lays it out pretty clearly. Jesus has been there from the beginning. He was there when the earth was created. He was there when humanity was created. He watched humans fall and fail over and over and over again. He's the grace of God. He's also the judgment of God. And I want you to really consider getting right with God if you're not. And you may say, well, I know Jesus. That's great. But my question is does Jesus know you? He says, not all those who come to me saying, Lord, Lord, will I accept. He'll say, I never knew you. And you may sit there, it may not feel that personal to you at this time. But, so you kind of have to ask yourself, okay, I know Jesus, but does Jesus know you? And he's not just some guy sitting around so desperate for your attention that once you finally give it to him, he's just excited. No, he's the creator of the universe. And he's sitting there going, okay, I want to get to know you, but I need you to get to know me too. And if I don't know you, then there's no hope for you. He wants to give you that hope. It's waiting for you. But you kind of have to know him in order to have that hope. So I just encourage you, if that's something that you feel like you want to get to know him more, please do. Please pray. Pray in Jesus' name. Read the Bible. Spend your life in devotion to him. And watch how he can change your life in so many dramatic ways. Well, if you like this video, please like, share, comment, subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. Hit the thumbs up button right below. I'd really appreciate it. And I will catch you guys later. And as we say here in Israel, Shabbat Shalom.